I am absolutely shocked. Okay, this won't work because it's flipped upside down. Let me end the stream here. This doesn't. How do I flip this upside down? It's just like the market is just flipped upside down. So I'm gonna try to figure out how to reverse this. Hey everybody, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. It's my first time doing it. Let me see the video. I don't want to mirror. So, all right, much better. Can you guys hear me okay? Oh man. Yeah, what the hell is going on? It just broke all the levels. So that was a huge flush, right? I think if you were kind of watching the price action, it really looked very, very weak and it really looked like it wanted to go a little bit lower and lower. And that was quite scary. So um I don't know. I'm laughing not because it's funny, it's just because anyway, if you look at Bitcoin, if you have to find a level, I mean, obviously it was a falling knife, and you're trying to find different levels. If I was just looking at the regular Ichimoku, of course you're gonna have people that are gonna talk about like all the way down to like 48,000, right? Like that's gonna be like something that other people are gonna talk about. Um, I thought that a rising blue line over there with the tank in around 50, 55, 700 might end up, finding a support, and it still might. Like this whole month has only been like 4 days, and the rising Tenkin is still generally thought to be a pretty decent support. I guess we just needed a flush to really trying to grab all the liquidity that we need to before the next move up. I don't know, because overall it still looks like it's forming higher highs and higher lows. But this is a pretty brutal higher low, and I don't know how low the higher low is necessarily going to get. Looking at the one thing is looking at the Super Ichi, the baseline over here. It seemed like it was the support, and we have a very, very strong reaction from it. It doesn't necessarily mean that we won't go back down to it again and maybe go down lower, but so far the reaction is very, very nice. That was one level that I was kind of eyeing, but the other level was really the tank in here. We'll see whether or not it gets back up to here, which is around 55,700. But yeah, that was absolutely insane. That move was absolutely insane. Um, on the weekly, unfortunately, yeah, I'm not sure whether or not this is going to be sustainable. I don't know. This is quite an interesting move. On the weekly, we did end up closing above the baseline over here, or the kitchen over here. I know I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. It did end up closing about the kitchen over here, but next thing you know, kitchen like this week just opened, and next thing you know, kitchen like just shot up. So right now you're below kitchen. So on the weekly, you really have lost some support here. And I think it showed, like it just flushed down, and on the 2 week chart, you still have some level down here. Like, I think next level is going to be around like 50,000. Um, and I do think that yeah, my internet's not the greatest right now. But I do think that it's kind of interesting. It bounced right off the Super Ichi. Like somebody was looking at these levels right around like 52, 6,000, something. No, sorry, 52, 600, somewhere around there. And it just bounced. We so far we have a pretty decent reaction, but it's a wick. If you're talking about some of the lower levels, it could hit the weekly Supichi cloud over here, or it could potentially hit the Ichimoku cloud over here. Like around 52, 51,000. I don't think it's like going to flush all the way down to like 40,000, but like, what do I know, right? That was insane. If you're talking about um, Uh, it says connection loss. Can you guys still hear me? I hope it still works. Okay. It just bounced off the weekly Ichimoku cloud and looks like it's trying to flip the top of the cloud back into support. But this whole thing is just absolutely insane. Like it just flushed down, like chain link just went all the way down. Um, yeah, unfortunate. That's what it is. It's a cryptocurrency market. It does whatever it wants to do, and even if you bounce back up, it might still go back down and try to back test some things. But this bounce over here gives me a little bit more confidence that it could just be a big giant flush because yeah, it's just not sustainable. Like these moves are not sustainable. If you look at the Bollinger Band, it's just like way underneath the Bollinger Band here. So I at least expect some kind of like dead cat bounce or something like that. But this move has just been absolutely vicious. If you look at the daily, like this move has just been like absolutely vicious, you know. But yeah, we found some support. If you're asking me what the um, overall trend is, it's it is back testing this level, right? Like that. There's no doubt about that. Back testing the level. Even look at like if you're talking about catalysts, like what brought on this flush, and the flush is still happening because initially you're going to have a little bit of a bounce, but it might still want to go down and flush a little bit more. If you're talking about the catalyst, I guess you can blame it like on the Japanese market, but even the Japanese market has actually just been right at support. It's right at the rising 20-month moving average, the Nikkei. And if you also look at the monthly Ichimoku, is also right around the confluence level, right around here, right? And then also at a very strong horizontal support here. So even the Japanese market looked like it's right at where it needs to be. If you look at the futures, S&P 500 futures, you look at ES, it really doesn't look that scary. Like the US market actually looks pretty stable. This is like the monthly Tenkan. Like honestly, on a bull market, you ride up on monthly Tenkan, right? Like sometimes you back test it, sure, but most of the time you just kind of like right above it. It's still right above it, and it's still pointing up. So I still think that this is like the U.S. market. I think are going to be fine on the long run. It still have maybe a few, like it can go down and flush a few more percentage down. That's entirely possible. But I think the U.S. market actually looks pretty decent. Even for the Nasdaq, the NQ, you are having a little bit of support over here. If I do the Subiichi, yeah, it doesn't look bad, I guess, on a macro sense from the US market. And even from the Japanese market, it doesn't look bad. But it's just absolutely insane how like Bitcoin is behaving just now. If you're asking about whether or not miners could be destroyed tomorrow, we'll see what the reaction is like, today, because I think the miners already have priced in like this close over here around this week around 58,000. Whether or not miners have priced in like this price over here, I don't know. And there's entirely possibility that miners might actually hold out okay, and they might also just flush the entire way down on Monday, and then just try to grab as much liquidity underneath. It could all be just like a big giant wick. The whole thing is, if you're asking about the sentiment can change in a hurry. So I don't really know. Like I'm still trying to gather my thoughts here because it's still pretty insane. Looks like it's bouncing pretty well off of this horizontal zone over here. It's a very important zone over here, right? Because you have a lot of history over here around 2300. You have a lot of history over here too. So this is a pretty important zone that just kind of back tested. And you're also talking about bouncing at the like Ichimoku cloud over here, which is completely still technically valid in terms of it being a higher low on a higher time frame, right? I would like to see it reclaiming the cloud by the end of the month on the monthly, because over here so far this still looks more like, reject of the cloud over here, break through the cloud, come back down, and back testing the cloud is just way overshot it. Um, on the Subaichi also way overshot it. Like I can totally see it trying to just back test the cloud here. So we'll see how it reacts. Like this month, the month is still early. It's only like August 4th. But this move over here is pretty diabolical. Like Chainlink is trying to find a higher low still. If you're asking me about what Chainlink's going to do, like, it's still trying to find a higher low. If you're asking about where the high low is going to be, I don't know. Like it's going to be like at this angle over here around $8.50, where there's a lot of support there. It's entirely possible. Doge is still pretty decent. Like it kind of went down here a little bit, but if you just look at like the overall picture of Doge, I still think that it's more just kind of back testing the levels, or it needs to back test. And it kind of gone down a little bit further than it did, over in July. But I still think that Doge doesn't look bad. I don't know. It's a falling knife though, so who knows? I mean, I can talk about the rest of like the cryptocurrency market, but the truth is this: like it had a big giant flush, and it had a pretty big wick, and it found support where it needed to find. And we'll see whether or not that support holds. There's a lot of volatility going on right now. But yeah, but even I don't know. I don't know what else to say. If you want to talk about um, the miners, I gotta say, I'm gonna turn off the GAN stuff over here. I'm gonna turn on the Ishimoku. I'm gonna look at a higher time frame. I thought that it had found some pretty decent support over there where it closed on Friday, and it could end up flushing down. Sorry, this is too much chart. On a monthly chart, I thought it found some pretty good support over here. You might end up flushing down and end up still, holding that support for a month. And I still think that anything lower underneath around like $13 would probably still be a good buying opportunity for CleanSpark. If you're asking for like some potential levels, it's going to be hard. Like, I mean, do I think it's going to go all the way down to like, $8, $9, $10? A lot of people are looking at the gaps and saying the gap has to close. The gap has to close. Like, I never thought the gaps have to close. If they end up flushing down to like, 10, 25 or something like that and just close the gap, I think it's going to end up getting bought up, because you just can't have price like getting way too far underneath the weekly Bollinger Band, and I'm just being realistic here. Like, I thought Mara has a little bit ways to go, like down to 16, 15. It's not out of the question, just based on the technical that it has already. Like, it's not out of the question that it goes flush down to like 15, 15.5 or something like that. And, talking about bit farms, like, I think it's at some pretty important support, or I thought it could flush down to like 1.8 or 2, like that's entirely possible. But initially, I thought it was just kind of range bound. It looks like it was probably finding some pretty decent support there, but who knows? This whole thing could also be just a big giant awaken to just grab liquidity. So we could have a Black Monday, but like a lot of things could end up getting bought up. The reason why I say that is just because the equity market still looks very strong despite of the correction that we're having. And it still looks like it's trying to grab liquidity down below. I just, it's hard for me to be too bearish, honestly, on the entire market on a longer term if they're still printing money. The recent bottom was like in October 2023, and so I don't. I mean, there's a lot of blood out there right now, but we'll see. If you ask me about Palantir, if you ask me about SoFi, I would say this for Palantir. It could get all the way back down to like 20. Yeah, it could get all the way down to like 20. 20.3, and that would still be a higher low. It would still be a bull market. If you're asking about SoFi, SoFi is a little bit more of a unique case, right? Because it has a lot to do with um, the overall market, whether or not people have like risk appetite. It looks like the cryptocurrency market is coming back a little bit. In terms of SoFi, it really depends on whether or not there's like risk appetite, right? Initially, we thought we had some, false weekly Ichimoku cloud over here at $8, just like I thought it would. I didn't think it was just going to push through on the first try. And right now we're kind of stood back down below here. So could we form a little bit of a lower low? That's entirely possible. But we're still gonna have to see what it does. Like looks like Bitcoin and Ethereum, looks like everything else just kind of coming back. So it could just be a flush, guys. I mean, it could just be a flush. Even if I look at IWM on the weekly, it still looks bullish. It basically just looks like a back test of this horizontal level breakout over here. Like it looks like there is a pretty big volume buy up, and there's a pretty big volume candle over here. So somebody must have known something last Friday. But overall, like the trend, as far as I'm concerned, like IWM still looks very good, and the month only has about like 4 days, like 2 trading days to it. And you already got like a big giant, inside candle over here. Could it go down further? Possible. I think there's plenty of support underneath. So I'm just not that bearish for the overall U.S. market. I think the overall U.S. market actually looked pretty decent. Even for the Nikkei, I think it's a little bit of overreaction. I think it's finding some pretty decent support. So, hey, maybe I'm just talking with hopium. I don't know. But so far, it looks like it was just a flush. And so far, it looks like Ethereum still wants to get back to like the top of the weekly Ichimoku cloud over here. So there are a lot of relative strength that you see during this flush. For example, like Solana looks really good. Yeah, like there's some relative strength here that maybe is more time to kind of look at those kinds of stocks in crypto rather than just trying to be sad about it. If you ask me what MicroStrategy is gonna do, I honestly don't think it's gonna, like, if it flushes down, I guess it could go back to like maybe like 1,200. I'm not sure if it's gonna go down to like 1,000, and I'm not sure it's gonna have to go down to like the weekly Ichimoku out here. Like I'm not sure about that. I think like 1,200 would probably be like a good area where it might go to, especially if Bitcoin ends up recovering overnight and get back above like 55, 56,000, which is entirely possible. But sometimes you just need a little bit of a flush, a little bit of a spring before things can go up higher. I guess that must have been it. Yeah, if Mara is 14.8, I can see that. Not so much here on the Ichimoku, but on the 20 month, it's rising. So that could be pretty decent support, like 20-month moving average. That could be pretty decent support over there, if it needs it. Yeah, I think MSTR is probably going to end up hitting some range down. Depends on what Bitcoin does. If Bitcoin recovers really well, then great. If not, then I can totally see that maybe going down to like 1,200, 1,250, somewhere around there. Like I'm not going to be that bearish on it. The thing about it, I still think it's a flush, and I talked about this a little bit before too. Just because MSTR is still relatively outperforming Bitcoin, you are hitting a little bit of resistance over here, though, right? So I can totally see MSTR kind of flushing down as well on this ratio over Bitcoin. But yeah, we'll see what tomorrow holds. I just cannot be that bearish. If you want to talk about like macroeconomics, and I've been told over the last how should I say that? Over the last week or two, there are a lot more toxic comments on my X and also on my YouTube as well. Like they're just basically saying, "Hey, you don't know what you're talking about. stop talking about like macro. Tell us like what stocks you favor. I've been following like this 2 year chart for like a whole year now. I really thought that this 2 year was going to just basically plummet because things have just been going up on the 2 year yield on big bearish diversions on like a higher time frame. I really thought that the 20-month moving average was rolling over. I really thought that the rates were like yields going to plummet. It doesn't matter what Powell does because the 10 year is already plummeting. It's already dropping, underneath the 20-month, and the 20-month looks like it wants to roll over. It wants to go down a lot further. And if the 20-month, sorry, if the 10-year yield goes down, like mortgage rates going to drop, you're going to basically talking about like you're going to have a lot of increased access of capital out there, and you're basically not going to have any issues with people worry about higher for longer, like regardless of what the Fed does, because these are real market conditions. A lot of the borrowing are based on real rates, and real rates already dropped from like 5% all the way down to like 3.7 for the 10-year yield. Right, U.S. liquidity is still going up. Like these things are non-disputable. Like U.S. liquidity is still going up. I'm going to turn off the Bollinger Band here, so you don't really need that. It's just not going up as fast as we as we like. And with the way that things are, I think it's probably going to end up going faster now. If you look at like U.S. liquidity, the U.S. money supply, if you look at Bitcoin, like Bitcoin just way outperformed the U.S. money supply, right? I think it just needed to cool down. A lot of people kind of front ran, you're going to have people printing money now. And I think a lot of people just kind of front ran, and a lot of people are already like saving cash and trying to push the price up, Bitcoin. But if the U.S. liquidity continue to go up, I just have a hard time seeing Bitcoin just end up getting stagnant for that long. This cycle is going to be slower compared to the other ones, just because the U.S. liquidity bottomed around October 2023. Whereas before, you really have, you have cycles, but overall it's still a little bit more linear, right? We're trying to get back to the linear range. So I think eventually, in order to get back to the linear range here, you're going to have to accelerate printing, and they're going to end up doing that. If they're going to end up doing that, I have a hard time seeing like, any real scare on Bitcoin, on Ethereum, on like the overall stock market. I just have a hard time to really see that. And even for the overall stock market, like they're still following the level. If you look at futures, they're still following the levels. At least for the U.S. stock market, it still looks very, very healthy. So I can't really say anything bad about it. If anything, and I can't believe I'm really like saying that, if anything, I think this might be a flush, more or less a buying opportunity. Because even looking at like the Bitcoin chart, looking at like the overall zooming out view, like nothing is really broken. If you also look at like the Ethereum chart here, like if you look at the greater view, yeah, it does get a little bit more scarier, but like overall, this is still considered to be like a little bit of a higher low, right? So have we seen something like this and actually turning out to be okay? Yeah, we did. Like even before the pandemic, even before this big giant wick over here, like, we have a very nice bull trend and a flushing down before going up, And I think a lot of people forget that price had gone from like 800 all the way to like 4,000 in just a mere year and a half. And we're just trying to digest the current move right here. So yeah, I'm just going to sigh. And these are all paper money until you sell. If you're wondering about what I think about the overall market, I already showed you about the futures. I already showed you what I thought about Bitcoin. I would like to see, hopefully, maybe sometime later this week, if we can close back about like 55,700, that'd be great. If Ethereum can close back inside the cloud around 2,700, that would be a very healthy backtest of the cloud. And Solana is still very much an outperformer. Like nobody wants to sell Solana. This is how scared they are. Even for Doge, like there's really, hey buddy, there's really not that much like, scare even for Doge. So, but yeah, that was absolutely insane. That was absolutely insane. I don't have a whole lot to add. I just wanted to come on to let you know. Yes, I did buy all the way down. I bought tonight at the top of the cloud. I bought around like 25, and I also had some order that I bought around like 2200. So yeah, I bought the dip if that was a dip. I don't know what else to say about it. And Doge I also bought, Doge as well. Like those two are actually the ones that I feel the most comfortable. If I'm going to allocate some money into it, those two are what I feel comfortable with because I already have Bitcoin. I already buy Bitcoin like down here, so I don't really care. But I do think that Ethereum still has a lot more room to run. If anything, I don't know. I just think that Ethereum during this part of the bull cycle is still going to end up in the longer term over the next like 12 to 18 months, still probably end up outperforming Bitcoin over time. So those are my thoughts. It could be a fool's thought, but those are my thoughts. And Bitcoin dominance just continues to go up. It like keeps on pushing above the monthly cloud over here, but it keeps on doing that on. Yeah, actually, it doesn't really have that much of a bearish divergence here anymore. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, it might be a fool's choice here, but I'm gonna hold my Bitcoin no matter what. I'm gonna hold my miners, see if I can buy some more miners if they're really flushing down. Obviously, taking a look at their technicals, right? But to be honest, like if MSTR, if it drops down to like 1200, it's still relatively healthy. If Clean Spark drops down into the cloud, it would still be more like a back test of this high over here, you know. And that even if it drops down to like 11 or 12, it'll still be back testing the high over here. So it's still not that scary. And you also still have a you also still have a bullish crossover here that is yet to play out, and we're just still kind of back testing some levels underneath. We might all end up being awake for the month of August, or we might actually end up closing back above this Tenkan up here around like 12.23. That would not surprise me at all. Yeah, so these things are volatile. I would never buy any options on Bitcoin miners because you're talking about these are derivatives of small cap stocks and Bitcoin, and you're doing a derivative on a derivative. Like I would never do that. If I'm holding spot, if it goes up and down, I know what I'm going to do. But for those that are holding options, I don't know. Like it's a very tough time right now, and but yeah, I'm here with you. I'm still here with you. Bitcoin is still trying to figure its thing out, and Ethereum is still trying to figure its thing out. So, but yeah, I'm gonna end the live stream here, guys. Thank you for joining. I just come on here trying to load it all on y'all. That's what I'm trying to do. And you just have to know that no matter how big accounts there are, like I don't even care if you're like 100K account, 500K account. I don't care if you're like Plan B. You are going to get some short-term stuff wrong. So yeah, don't lose sleep over it. There's really no reason to lose sleep over it. It's just paper money, and don't do anything irrational. Just make sure if anything, like if this thing over here is really killing your options and killing your leverage plays, just it's a great time to reassess your risk tolerance. Can I look back and see? Yeah, like that's the thing. Like next thing you know, you can just have like a very, very quick narrative if something big happens. Like they can just use some kind of random news, and next thing you know, like everything will be bullish again. You know how many like world conflicts, how many like things that they just keep on talking on the weekends, and they never spike up oil over the last year or two, and the market just plummeted and just keeps going up, right? I'm not really I don't really I'm not keen on, like, listening to those counter narratives. So next thing you know, if they want to pump the market, they'll pump the market. If they want to dump it, they'll dump it. Like, I don't really, yeah, don't lose sleep over it, guys. Make sure if your risk tolerance is not up for this, then you shouldn't be in it, but don't do anything rash tonight. Not financial advice. Oh man. All right, guys.